Imagine standing at the edge of an ancient temple hidden deep in the jungles of Cambodia, its stone walls whispering secrets from a forgotten time. Or picture yourself gazing at the silent, solemn faces of the terracotta warriors in China, each one holding a story that has puzzled historians for centuries. Asia, a continent steeped in history and mystery, is home to some of the most baffling enigmas the world has ever known, stories that defy explanation, artifacts that challenge our understanding, and legends that blur the line between myth and reality. What if I told you that despite all our advances in science and technology, there are still mysteries scattered across Asia that remain unsolved? These aren't just gaps in history, they're riddles that have endured for hundreds, sometimes thousands of years, resisting every attempt to crack them. From vanished civilizations to cryptic manuscripts, from lost treasures to unexplained monuments, these puzzles are more than just footnotes in history books. They're invitations to step into the unknown, to question what we think we know, and to marvel at the sheer depth of human history still waiting to be uncovered. Today, we're embarking on a journey through 25 of these astonishing mysteries, each one a window into a different era, a different culture, and a different puzzle that has left experts scratching their heads. Some of these tales are eerie, some are thrilling, and others are so bizarre they'll make you wonder if the truth will ever be found. But one thing connects them all: the irresistible allure of the unsolved, the magnetic pull of questions without answers. So settle in, because by the time we're done, you'll see Asia's past in a whole new light. And who knows, you might even find yourself itching to solve one of these mysteries yourself. Deep in the mist-shrouded peaks of the Himalayas, where the air grows thin and the mountains seem to touch the sky, lies one of history's most tantalizing legends, the lost paradise of Shangri-La. This mythical utopia, a place of eternal peace and wisdom untouched by time, has captured imaginations for centuries. Its roots stretch back to ancient Tibetan Buddhist scriptures, which speak of hidden valleys called bail, sacred sanctuaries where enlightenment flourishes and suffering fades away. But Shangri-La truly entered the world's consciousness in 1933, when British writer James Hilton immortalized it in his novel Lost Horizon, describing a secluded monastery where people lived for centuries, free from war and decay. But here's the twist: what if Shangri-La wasn't just a story? For decades, explorers and scholars have scoured remote corners of the Himalayas, from the lush valleys of Yunnan to the rugged cliffs of Bhutan, searching for a real-world counterpart. Some believe the inspiration lies in the Tibetan kingdom of Gyalthang, now renamed Shangri-La by the Chinese government to attract tourists. Others point to the isolated valley of Hunza in Pakistan, where the people are known for their extraordinary longevity, fueling theories of a hidden fountain of youth. Even the famous Russian artist Nicholas Roerich embarked on expeditions through Central Asia, convinced he'd find traces of this earthly paradise. Yet despite the searches, Shangri-La remains elusive, a shimmering mirage between myth and reality. Whether it's a physical place, a spiritual ideal, or simply the human longing for perfection, the mystery endures, and perhaps that's the magic of it. After all, isn't the search for something just beyond our grasp what keeps the wonder alive? Nearly 4,000 years ago, along the fertile plains of the Indus River, thrived one of humanity's most sophisticated early civilizations, a marvel of urban planning, trade, and artistry. The Indus Valley people built grid-patterned cities with advanced drainage systems, crafted intricate seals adorned with mysterious symbols, and traded as far as Mesopotamia. Then, around 1900 BC, this flourishing culture vanished almost without a trace. Unlike other ancient collapses, there's no evidence of war, no ash layers from conquest, just empty streets and silent ruins. So what happened? One leading theory points to climate change. Geological studies suggest the region's monsoons weakened dramatically, turning life-giving rivers into shallow streams. The once reliable Gagahakra River, possibly the Saraswati mentioned in Vedic texts, may have dried up, forcing populations to abandon their cities in search of water. Others argue that tectonic shifts diverted rivers away from urban centers, disrupting agriculture and trade networks. But here's where it gets even more puzzling. Some settlements show no signs of struggle. At Mohenjo-Daro, archaeologists found no mass graves, no emergency stockpiles, just orderly streets left behind as if people simply walked away. Then there's the invasion theory. Early scholars blamed nomadic Aryans from the north, citing later Vedic texts that describe conflicts, yet excavations reveal no burnt layers or weapons to support this. Instead, newer research suggests internal decay, overpopulation, resource strain, or even social unrest could have fractured the civilization from within. But the greatest enigma remains their script. Thousands of inscriptions survive on seals and pottery, but without a Rosetta Stone-like key, the symbols defy translation. Are they a language, religious icons? Even after a century of study, no one knows for certain. The Indus Valley's disappearance isn't just a historical cold case, it's a haunting reminder of how fragile even the mightiest societies can be. And until we crack their code or uncover new clues, their whispers will linger in the ruins, waiting to be heard. Buried beneath a massive earthen mound in China's Shaanxi province lies one of archaeology's greatest forbidden frontiers, the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the ruthless unifier of China and its first emperor. Ancient texts describe a subterranean palace more magnificent than anything above ground, with jeweled constellations on the ceiling, crossbow booby traps guarding the corridors, and most astonishing of all, rivers and seas of shimmering liquid mercury flowing endlessly through the burial chambers. For over 2,000 years, these accounts were dismissed as legend until modern science revealed a terrifying truth. Soil samples taken around the mound show mercury levels up to 100 times higher than normal, matching historical descriptions of the tomb's mercury rivers. Remote sensing confirms a vast underground structure with liquid metal movement patterns mirroring China's major waterways. Why would an emperor go to such lengths? Qin Shi Huang was obsessed with immortality, and mercury was alchemy's key ingredient. Though we now know it's lethally toxic, his terracotta army, just the outer guard of this necropolis, hints at what might lie within. Yet despite tantalizing clues, the central tomb remains sealed, sparking fierce debate among scholars. The risks are staggering. Excavation could destroy delicate artifacts, silk texts, lacquerware, even the emperor's remains, if exposed to air after millennia in a stable environment. Then there's the mercury. Inhalation hazards alone make it a potential death trap for archaeologists, not to mention environmental contamination. But beyond practicality, there's an ethical dilemma. Should we disturb a tomb designed to be eternally sealed, especially when Chinese tradition reveres ancestors and their resting places? Some argue the knowledge gained could rewrite history, while others insist the past should remain untouched unless absolutely necessary. Perhaps the greatest irony is that Qin Shi Huang's quest for eternal secrecy has succeeded beyond his wildest dreams. His mercury rivers, meant to simulate an everlasting empire, now serve as the ultimate deterrent, keeping us at bay with the very poison he hoped would grant him immortality. Until technology or ethics shift, his secrets will stay locked away, leaving us to wonder what other wonders or horrors still wait in the dark. As World War II neared its bloody end in the Pacific, a rumor began to spread among Allied soldiers and Filipino guerrillas. Somewhere in the dense jungles and labyrinthine tunnels of the Philippines, the Japanese had hidden unimaginable riches. This wasn't just idle gossip. According to legend, General Tomoyuki Yamashita, the notorious Tiger of Malaya, oversaw a secret operation to stash billions of dollars worth of looted gold, jewels, and religious artifacts across dozens of sites. The treasure, plundered from temples, banks, and private collections across Southeast Asia, was meant to finance Japan's last stand, or so the story goes. But when the war abruptly ended with Japan's surrender, Yamashita took the locations to his grave, executed for war crimes before he could reveal their secrets. What makes this tale so compelling isn't just the scale of the alleged treasure. It's the eerie mix of documented history and wild speculation. Declassified U.S. intelligence files mention recovered Japanese gold in the Philippines, fueling theories that the OSS, precursor to the CIA, secretly negotiated with Yamashita to recover portions of the hoard. Then there's the infamous Golden Lily operation, named after a poem by Emperor Hirohito, which reportedly systematized the looting of Asia. Survivors like Filipino treasure hunter Rogelio Roxas claim to have found part of the stash in the 1970s, a golden Buddha and stacks of bullion, only to have it allegedly seized by dictator Ferdinand Marcos under dubious circumstances. Yet for every tantalizing lead, there are glaring holes. Skeptics argue that while looting certainly occurred, the Yamashita legend has been inflated by decades of tall tales and greed. No definitive maps or inventories survive, and many supposed discoveries have turned out to be elaborate scams. Even the geography works against treasure hunters. The Philippines' 7,000 islands, volcanic terrain, and frequent monsoon rains make systematic searches nearly impossible. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Could some caches exist? Almost certainly, but the real mystery isn't just about gold. It's about how war distorts history, how greed fuels myth, and why we're so drawn to stories of lost fortunes. Whether Yamashita's treasure is out there or not, its legend has taken on a life of its own, buried not in soil but in our collective imagination. Somewhere beneath the bustling streets of Old Delhi, or perhaps buried in the forgotten corridors of a crumbling fortress, legends whisper of a treasure more valuable than gold, the lost library of the Moguls. Imagine a vast chamber filled with illuminated manuscripts, scientific treatises, and poetic masterpieces collected over centuries by emperors who ruled one of history's most opulent dynasties. From Babur's first-hand memoirs to Akbar's meticulously commissioned translations, this library was said to be a beacon of knowledge, a place where Persian met Sanskrit, where astronomy texts sat beside volumes of Sufi philosophy. Then, as the Mughal Empire crumbled under invasions and internal strife, the library vanished, if it ever existed at all. Historical records offer tantalizing clues. Emperor Akbar's court historian, Abul Fazl, wrote in the Ain-i-Akbari about an imperial scriptorium called the Kitabkhana, where scribes painstakingly copied and illustrated thousands of works. European travelers like Francois Bernier described seeing storerooms stacked with volumes in the Red Fort. But after Nadir Shah's sack of Delhi in 1739 and the British takeover a century later, the trail goes cold. Some scholars believe the collection was scattered, sold, burned, or looted during the chaos. Others insist a core cache was hidden, perhaps walled up in a secret annex or transported to a remote stronghold like the fortress of Gwalior. Modern searches have turned up fragments. In the 1920s, a trunk of Mughal-era manuscripts was discovered in a Delhi attic, reigniting hope. More recently, digital projects like the Persian Manuscript Catalogue have identified surviving texts in far-flung collections, from Oxford to Kolkata, that may have once belonged to the Imperial Library. But the sheer scale of the loss is staggering. If the library existed as described, its contents could rewrite our understanding of medieval Indian science, art, and governance. The mystery endures because it's about more than books, it's about cultural memory. The Mughals didn't just collect knowledge, they synthesized it, creating a cosmopolitan world where Hindu mathematicians and Muslim astronomers collaborated. Finding even a fraction of their library wouldn't just fill gaps in history, it would remind us how much brilliance can vanish when empires fall. And so the search goes on, fueled by the belief that somewhere those pages still wait, holding stories we've yet to hear. High above the city of Jeonju in South Korea, suspended in the open air of a pavilion, hangs a bronze bell so massive that its lowest point stands taller than a grown man. Known as the Bell of King Seongdeok, this 8th century masterpiece weighs nearly 19 tons and is revered as one of Korea's most treasured national relics. But what draws visitors isn't just its size or age, it's the chilling legend woven into its very metal. According to ancient records, the bell's casting was plagued with failures. No matter how skilled the artisans, the metal refused to set correctly, cracking or crumbling time and again. Desperate, the craftsmen consulted a fortune teller who delivered a horrifying solution. To ensure the bell's completion, a child must be sacrificed. The story goes that a peasant woman passing by with her daughter was lured close under false pretenses. As the girl peered into the molten bronze, she was pushed in, her final scream supposedly embedded in the alloy. When the bell was finally finished, its sound echoed with a mournful wail, a child's cry that could be heard for miles. To this day, locals claim that striking the bell produces not a clear tone, but a haunting, grief-stricken resonance they call emil, the Korean word for mother. But could there be a scientific explanation behind the eerie sound? Metallurgists point to the bell's unique alloy composition, a blend of copper, tin, and trace elements that creates unusual acoustic properties. Its distinctive shape, with a flared mouth and thick walls, amplifies certain frequencies while dampening others, potentially producing tones that mimic human cries. Then there's the dead spot, a peculiar quirk where the bell fails to ring loudly unless struck in just the right place, a flaw that might have been misinterpreted as supernatural sorrow by ancient observers. The truth may never fully untangle from the myth. What's undeniable is how the legend reflects the anxieties of its time, the fear of failed craftsmanship, the sacrificial demands of power, and the lingering guilt of those who built empires atop unseen suffering. Whether the sound is metallurgy or misery, the Bell of King Seongdeok remains a monument to both human ingenuity and the stories we tell to make sense of the past. And when the wind blows just right through Jeongju, some still swear they hear a whisper in the chime, not of bronze, but of a voice calling out across the centuries. In the late 13th century, the Mongol Empire stretched from the steppes of Central Asia to the shores of Korea, an unstoppable force that had conquered kingdoms with ruthless efficiency. Yet there was one place even the great Kublai Khan could not subdue: Japan. Twice, in 1274 and 1281, the Mongol ruler launched massive invasions, assembling fleets so vast they darkened the sea with their shadows. Hundreds of ships carried tens of thousands of soldiers, horses, and siege weapons, all poised to bring Japan to its knees. And twice, nature itself intervened with catastrophic typhoons, smashing the fleets to splinters and drowning the invaders beneath furious waves. The Japanese called these divine winds kamikaze, a gift from the gods that saved their islands from certain doom. For centuries, the lost fleets of Kublai Khan existed only in legends and ancient scrolls depicting ships swallowed by towering waves. Then, in the 1980s, fishermen off the coast of Takashima Island began hauling up strange artifacts, rusted anchors, shattered pottery, and fragments of weapons unlike anything Japanese. Archaeologists soon realized they were standing atop a graveyard of history. Underwater excavations revealed Mongol shipwrecks preserved in the silt, their hulls still bearing the distinct construction techniques of Yuan dynasty shipyards. One vessel even contained a rare bombshell, an early form of gunpowder weaponry, proving the Mongols brought cutting-edge warfare to Japan's shores. But the deeper researchers dug, the more questions emerged. Why did such experienced sailors who had successfully crossed the Yellow Sea before fail so spectacularly? Some historians point to the Mongols' reliance on hastily built, flat-bottomed riverboats ill-suited for open ocean storms. Others suggest the Japanese defenders may have lured the fleet into vulnerable positions before the typhoons struck. And then there's the eerie coincidence both invasions were shattered by nearly identical weather disasters just 7 years apart. Was it truly divine intervention, or did the Mongols underestimate the seasonal fury of the East China Sea? The most haunting discovery, though, lies in the human cost. Mass graves on Takashima hold skeletons with Mongol-style armor, their bones bearing slash marks from samurai swords. These weren't just sailors lost at sea, they were soldiers who reached the beaches only to be cut down in desperate last stands. Today, the wrecks remain a time capsule of imperial ambition and its limits, a reminder that even history's greatest conquerors could be humbled by nature's might. And perhaps that's the real mystery, not why the fleet sank, but why Kublai Khan, a man who ruled half the known world, risked everything twice for islands that refused to kneel. In the pre-dawn hours of October 8, 1895, a group of armed men stormed the royal palace in Seoul, their faces streaked with shadows and their blades glinting in the torchlight. Their target was Empress Myeongseong, the formidable wife of Korea's King Gojong, a woman whose political savvy and resistance to foreign influence had earned her a deadly reputation. What followed was a massacre so brutal it would become known as the Yulmi Incident, a cold-blooded assassination that shattered Korea's sovereignty and left mysteries still unsolved today. The Empress was no ordinary royal. Fluent in multiple languages, she navigated the treacherous waters of late 19th century diplomacy, playing world powers against each other to preserve Korea's independence. When Japan's influence grew too strong, she secretly reached out to Russia and China for support, a move that sealed her fate. Eyewitness accounts describe how the assassins, later confirmed to be Japanese agents aided by Korean collaborators, dragged her from her chambers, stabbed her repeatedly, and burned her body in the nearby woods. The king, powerless to stop them, was forced to sign a document declaring her a traitor posthumously. But the intrigue doesn't end there. Missing from official records are key details like the exact number of attackers or the identities of certain high-ranking conspirators. Even more puzzling, the Empress's personal seal, a symbol of royal authority, vanished that night. Some historians believe it was stolen to legitimize forged documents favoring Japanese control. Others whisper it was smuggled out by loyalists, hidden away as a relic of resistance. Decades later, a box allegedly containing her blood-stained robes surfaced in Japan, only to disappear again under murky circumstances, fueling speculation about cover-ups at the highest levels. The assassination wasn't just a crime, it was a turning point. With the Empress gone, Korea's autonomy crumbled, paving the way for Japanese annexation 15 years later. Yet the full truth remains shrouded. Were rogue actors responsible, or did Tokyo's government orchestrate the plot? Why did some of the killers later receive promotions in the Japanese military? And what happened to the artifacts that could rewrite this dark chapter? The Empress's death was meant to silence a nation, but instead it birthed a legend, one that still demands answers. Deep in the dense jungles of Cambodia's Phnom Kulen mountain range, where vines twist around ancient sandstone and the air hums with the whispers of forgotten kingdoms, lies a mystery that could rewrite Southeast Asian history: the rumored lost pyramid of Cambodia. Locals have long spoken of a massive structure hidden beneath the forest canopy, a rival to Angkor Wat in both size and grandeur, yet unseen by modern eyes. Satellite imagery and aerial surveys in recent years have only fueled the speculation, revealing strange geometric patterns in the landscape that suggest something monumental lies beneath the earth. The legend gained traction in 2012 when archaeologist Jean-Baptiste Chevance and his team conducted LiDAR scans of the area, uncovering what appeared to be a stepped pyramid-like formation buried under centuries of vegetation. The structure, estimated to date back to the 9th century, aligns eerily with descriptions from ancient Khmer texts that mention a mountain temple built by the empire's founder, Jayavarman II. Some researchers believe this could be Mahendraparvata, the mythical first capital of the Khmer Empire, predating even Angkor itself. But here's the catch: despite tantalizing clues, no large-scale excavation has yet confirmed the pyramid's existence. Local folklore adds another layer of intrigue. Villagers near Phnom Kulen tell stories of a cursed city, swallowed by the jungle after its rulers angered the gods. Certain areas are considered forbidden, with tales of disappearing explorers and unexplained lights flickering among the trees at night. Even experienced guides hesitate to venture deep into these zones, fearing ancient protections still linger. Yet for every chilling story, there are tangible hints of truth carved lingers hidden in riverbeds, scattered temple fragments, and an intricate network of undiscovered roads hinting at a sprawling urban center lost to time. Skeptics argue that the pyramid may simply be a natural rock formation shaped by erosion and wishful thinking. They point out that the Khmer typically built upward with temples, not downward into the earth like Mesoamerican pyramids. But proponents counter that the LiDAR data shows deliberate symmetry, terraces, causeways, and what could be a central altar, all hallmarks of sacred Khmer architecture. Until archaeologists can dig deeper, literally and figuratively, the truth remains suspended between myth and science. What makes this mystery so gripping isn't just the possibility of a hidden pyramid. It's the idea that Angkor Wat, already one of the world's most awe-inspiring sites, might have an even older, grander sibling waiting to be uncovered. If Phnom Kulen's secrets are real, they could redefine our understanding of how the Khmer Empire rose to power and why its earliest achievements were abandoned to the jungle's embrace. For now, the mountain keeps its silence, but the whispers of the past grow louder with each passing monsoon, as if the earth itself is ready to reveal its long-buried truth. Off the coast of Japan's westernmost island, where the Pacific Ocean meets the East China Sea, lies a discovery so startling it's been called Japan's Atlantis, the Yonaguni Monument. Towering stone formations rise from the seafloor, their sharp angles and perfect terraces looking like the ruins of an ancient city swallowed by the waves. But since its accidental discovery by a diver in 1986, this underwater enigma has divided experts into two passionate camps. Is Yonaguni a natural geological marvel or the handiwork of a long-lost civilization? Geologists pointing to nature's sculpting powers highlight how sandstone, the primary rock at Yonaguni, naturally fractures into flat, angular plains due to tectonic stress. The strong currents in these waters could have eroded softer layers over millennia, creating what appear to be steps, platforms, and even a massive, turtle-shaped altar. Professor Robert Skock of Boston University, who famously studied the site, argues that the formations align with known underwater bedrock patterns. No human tools or carvings have been found to suggest artificial construction. Even the monument's most iconic feature, the monolith with its two striking pillars, could be the result of natural jointing in the rock, yet the alternative theories are irresistible. Marine archaeologist Masaaki Kimura has spent decades mapping the site, identifying what he believes are clear signs of human intervention. Perfectly straight 90-degree corners, symmetrical staircases, and even what looks like a carved relief resembling a human face. Kimura proposes that Yonaguni was part of a larger prehistoric city, possibly linked to the legendary Mu civilization, a Pacific counterpart to Atlantis. Adding fuel to the fire, nearby underwater roads and circular depressions resemble ancient quarry marks, while sonar scans reveal structures stretching far beyond the main monument. The debate takes a mystical turn when considering local folklore. Yonaguni's elders speak of a drowned kingdom called Kaijima, said to have sunk beneath the waves in a catastrophic event. Similar legends exist across Okinawa, where oral histories describe bridge-like stone paths connecting islands, paths now submerged. Could these stories preserve a collective memory of a real catastrophe? Skeptics counter that such tales exist globally and rarely align with provable history. What makes Yonaguni uniquely compelling is its ambiguity. Unlike man-made ruins with clear artifacts, the monument sits in a gray zone, just plausible enough to spark wonder, just uncertain enough to resist resolution. Whether a quirk of geology or a relic of forgotten builders, its grandeur reminds us how much of Earth's past still lies hidden beneath the waves, waiting for the right explorer or the right technology to reveal its secrets. And until then, the waters off Yonaguni will keep their mystery, stirring imaginations and debates in equal measure. Imagine the glittering courts of 19th century Siam, where golden palaces shimmered in the tropical sun and the king's regalia dazzled with rubies, diamonds, and sacred diamonds said to hold divine power. Among these treasures, none were more revered than the royal regalia, crowns, swords, and ceremonial items embodying the monarchy's spiritual authority. Then, almost without warning, key pieces vanished from history's record. No wars, no documented thefts, just an eerie silence where these symbols of sovereignty should have been. To this day, the disappearance of Siam's crown jewels remains one of Southeast Asia's most puzzling historical riddles, a mystery tangled in colonial ambition, royal secrets, and whispered rumors of hidden vaults. The most persistent theory points to foreign intervention. During the reign of King Rama IV in the mid-1800s, European powers were circling Siam, eager to expand their influence. British diplomats and French envoys frequented the court, some reportedly fascinated by the kingdom's legendary riches. Could a colonial agent have orchestrated the theft, perhaps to weaken Siamese morale or as a trophy of imperial dominance? Intriguingly, 19th century British archives contain vague references to Oriental gems acquired under questionable circumstances, though no direct links to Siam's regalia have ever been proven. Even more tantalizing is a French collector's journal from 1887 describing a sapphire-encrusted dagger matching descriptions of a lost Siamese artifact, but the trail goes cold there. Then there's the palace intrigue angle. Court chronicles hint at internal power struggles during Rama V's reign, a time when modernization efforts clashed with traditionalist factions. Some scholars suggest high-ranking nobles may have secretly sequestered portions of the regalia, either to safeguard them from foreign hands or to wield as bargaining chips in political maneuvers. A controversial 1992 interview with a descendant of a royal treasurer claimed that certain jewels were entrusted to loyal families, with instructions to keep them hidden until the monarchy's position stabilized. If true, these heirlooms could still exist, passed down through generations in absolute secrecy. The wildest theory involves sacred theft. Certain items, like the Phra Keo Morakot, the revered Emerald Buddha, were considered so spiritually potent that their removal might have been an act of religious protection, hidden not out of greed, but to prevent their desecration during turbulent times. Thai folklore even speaks of Naka's mythical serpents guarding lost treasures in remote caves, a metaphor perhaps for elite guardianship. What makes this mystery so haunting isn't just the missing jewels, but what they represented. These weren't mere ornaments, they were living symbols of a kingdom's soul. Their absence left a void in Thailand's cultural memory, a gap filled with whispers and what-ifs. While replicas now sit in Bangkok's Grand Palace, the original's fate lingers like a shadow somewhere between history's pages and legend's embrace. And until a vault is unsealed or an attic reveals its secret, the crown jewels of Siam will remain ghostly reminders of a past still waiting to be found. Deep in the vaults of Burma's royal palaces once lay two rubies so flawless, so violently red, they were said to glow like freshly spilled blood in candlelight. These were the Ungamok rubies, twin gems of legendary size and purity, revered not just for their beauty but for their sacred ties to monarchy itself. According to court chronicles, they were discovered in the Mogok Valley in the early 19th century, pried from the earth by miners who immediately recognized their otherworldly brilliance. Presented to King Minden Min, they became talismans of power, embedded in the royal regalia and believed to protect Burma's sovereignty. Yet within decades, the kingdom fell to British colonization, the rubies vanished, and a chilling pattern emerged. Those who claimed ownership faced devastating misfortune, from untimely deaths to financial ruin. Were these gems truly cursed, or did their dark reputation simply mirror the chaos of colonialism? The rubies' journey reads like a thriller. When British forces annexed Upper Burma in 1885, they looted the royal treasures, shipping crates of jewels back to London. But the ungamok rubies were conspicuously absent from official inventories. Some historians suspect they were smuggled out by loyalists, hidden in secret compartments, or even swallowed by fleeing courtiers, a desperate act to keep them from enemy hands. Others point to a British officer's diary from 1886, which mentions 2 pigeons' bloodstones mysteriously disappearing en route to Calcutta. The most tantalizing clue surfaced in 1929, when a Parisian jeweler auctioned a ruby matching the ungamok's description, only for the buyer to die in a car crash weeks later. The gem then passed through shadowy collectors, each reporting eerie misfortunes, bankruptcies, suicides, even a house fire that destroyed everything but the ruby itself. Burma's oral traditions add another layer. Elders whisper that the rubies were never just gems, they housed gnats, vengeful spirits bound to the royal lineage. Disturb them, the legends warn, and tragedy follows. Modern gemologists scoff at supernatural explanations, attributing the curse to coincidence or the psychological power of suggestion. Yet even skeptics can't deny the ruby's strange magnetism. In 2007, a Myanmar historian claimed to track one to a private collection in Singapore, but the owner refused authentication, citing bad vibes. Then there's the anonymous online post in 2015 from someone alleging to possess a ungamok ruby, begging to return it to Myanmar. Before it's too late, the account went dark days later. What makes this mystery so enduring isn't just the question of where the rubies are now, but why their legend persists. In a way, they've become symbols of Burma's, now Myanmar's, unresolved past. The monarchy's fall, colonial plunder, and the struggle to reclaim cultural identity all swirl around these missing stones. Whether cursed or merely coveted, their story reflects a deeper truth. Some treasures carry weight beyond their carats. And until the ungamok rubies resurface, if they ever do, they'll remain ghostly reminders of a kingdom's lost glory and the price of disturbing what history has tried to bury. The first time archaeologists brushed the earth away from those lifelike terracotta faces in 1974, the world gasped. Row upon row of soldiers frozen in time, each with unique features, standing guard for 2 millennia over China's first emperor. But what if the 8,000 warriors we've uncovered so far are just the tip of an even more staggering secret? Whispers among researchers suggest that beyond the excavated pits, buried deeper and stretching farther than anyone imagined, lies a second ghost army, one that could double or even triple the scale of this ancient marvel. Recent ground-penetrating radar surveys around Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum have revealed anomalies that defy simple explanation. Vast, hollow spaces beneath unexcavated sections of the site show patterns eerily similar to the known terracotta pits, orderly rows of rectangular chambers, some larger than football fields. Drone thermal imaging adds fuel to the fire, detecting temperature variations consistent with underground voids filled with ceramics. Most compelling of all, a 2018 study published in Archaeological Prospection identified a 20-square-kilometer area of high-density artifacts, suggesting an entire subterranean city of statues waiting to be unearthed. Why would Qin Shi Huang need 2 armies? Historians speculate that the known terracotta warriors represent his imperial guard, the elite troops who enforced his rule in life. The rumored second army might symbolize something grander, a cosmic force to protect him in the afterlife. Ancient texts mention the emperor's obsession with replicating his entire earthly domain underground, complete with rivers of mercury, palaces of jade, and constellations of pearls. If true, these newly detected pits could contain not just more soldiers, but terracotta bureaucrats, musicians, even mythical beasts, a complete spectral bureaucracy to serve him beyond death. The implications are staggering. Excavating these areas could rewrite our understanding of Qin dynasty logistics. How did artisans produce tens of thousands of life-sized statues in just a few decades? Where did the clay and pigments come from? And most hauntingly, what other terrors or wonders might lie near the untouched central tomb, still sealed after 22 centuries? Yet for all the excitement, caution holds sway. The same mercury that floods Qin's burial chambers likely permeates these unopened pits, posing lethal risks. Then there's the ethical dilemma. Should we disturb these silent regiments at all, or let them keep their ancient vigil? For now, technology offers a compromise, peering through the soil with scanners, teasing out secrets without lifting a shovel. But one day, the ghost army may step into the light, and when it does, we'll face not just an archaeological triumph, but a reckoning with the ambition of a man who sought to conquer even eternity. Of all the great conquerors in history, none took more care to vanish without a trace than Genghis Khan. When the founder of the Mongol Empire died in 1227, his final wish was as ruthless as his reign, to be buried in absolute secrecy, with no marker, no monument, and no witnesses left alive to reveal the location. According to legend, his funeral procession slaughtered every person they encountered along the route. Then the soldiers who dug the grave were themselves executed by an elite guard, who in turn took their own lives. The earth was trampled by 1,000 horses to erase all traces, and trees were planted over the site so the forest itself would swallow the secret. 7 centuries later, this vanishing act remains one of history's most chillingly effective because despite drones, satellites, and billion-dollar expeditions, Genghis Khan's tomb has never been found. The search isn't just hindered by the brutality of his precautions, it's complicated by deep cultural taboos. In Mongolia, disturbing ancestral graves is considered sacrilege, inviting curses and misfortune. Many locals believe the tomb's secrecy isn't just practical, it's supernatural, protected by the spirits of the fallen gods and the will of Tengri, the eternal sky god. Even modern archaeologists tread carefully. In 2001, a U.S. Mongolian expedition claimed to have found the tomb in the Kentiai Mountains, only to abruptly halt work after team members fell mysteriously ill and equipment malfunctioned. Whether coincidence or curse, the message was clear: some secrets aren't meant to be uncovered. Technology has pushed the boundaries of what's possible without breaking taboos. Satellite imaging has scanned every inch of northeastern Mongolia's forbidden zone, identifying promising underground anomalies. Drones equipped with LiDAR have mapped terrain once accessible only on horseback, revealing hidden riverbeds that match medieval descriptions. Most compelling is a 2016 discovery near the sacred Burkhan Kholdan Mountain, a sprawling complex of structures and roads dating to the 13th century, possibly built by the mourners who prepared Genghis's burial. But here's the catch: without excavation, which Mongolia's government strictly prohibits, these clues remain tantalizing dead ends. Historians debate whether we should even keep looking. For Mongolians, the tomb's secrecy is part of its sanctity, a final act of respect for a leader who reshaped the world. Finding it could ignite political tensions over cultural ownership, especially if treasures are involved. Yet others argue that unearthing the tomb might rewrite our understanding of the Mongol Empire's spiritual beliefs, trade routes, and even Genghis Khan's true origins. Perhaps the greatest irony is that history's most feared conqueror achieved in death what no enemy could in life: complete invisibility. His tomb, if it exists at all, is now likely buried under centuries of sediment, forest growth, and the weight of his own myth. And so the search continues, not with shovels but with algorithms and infrared cameras, as if the 21st century is finally meeting the 13th in a silent battle of wits. Will we ever find Genghis Khan, or was that precisely the point, to ensure that the man who built an empire from the steppes would forever belong only to the wind? Among the crumbling brick lanes of Mohenjo-Daro, one of the Indus Valley's greatest cities, lies a mystery so unsettling it feels ripped from science fiction. In the 1920s, archaeologists unearthed streets littered with skeletons not carefully buried, but sprawled where they fell, some holding hands as if struck down mid-moment. Even stranger, a handful of these bones showed traces of radiation, sparking a wild theory that this 4,000-year-old metropolis might be evidence of an ancient nuclear war. Could a civilization from the Bronze Age really have harnessed and fallen victim to atomic power, or is the truth buried in something far more ordinary yet just as chilling? The ancient nuclear hypothesis gained traction when researchers noted eerie similarities between Mohenjo-Daro's ruins and Hiroshima after the atomic bomb. Vitrified bricks clay fused into glass by extreme heat were found scattered in layers, a phenomenon typically caused by temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Celsius. Then there's the radioactive readings. While skeptics argue natural uranium deposits could explain this, proponents point to the Mahabharata, an ancient Indian epic describing weapons that sound unnervingly modern. An iron thunderbolt, capable of reducing cities to ash and leaving survivors with falling hair and brittle nails, symptoms hauntingly similar to radiation poisoning. But before we rewrite history textbooks, let's weigh the mainstream explanations. Geological evidence suggests Mohenjo-Daro suffered repeated, catastrophic flooding from the Indus River, which could account for sudden mass deaths. Layers of silt between city levels tell a story of rebuilds after nature's fury. Then there's the invasion angle. While no battle scars were found in early digs, newer studies reveal skeletons with blunt force trauma hinting at violence. But here's the twist. These injuries appear sporadic, not systematic, ruling out full-scale war. Toxicity offers another clue. The city's advanced wells might have drawn arsenic-laced groundwater, slowly poisoning the populace until a final crisis, perhaps a flood or quake, delivered the coup de grace. What makes this debate so captivating isn't just the clash of theories, it's what it reveals about how we interpret the past. The nuclear narrative taps into our fascination with lost advanced civilizations, a theme echoed in Atlantis myths and alien astronaut lore. Yet the humbler explanations, floods, environmental decay, social collapse, mirror threats we face today, making Mohenjo-Daro's fate less a sensational anomaly and more a cautionary tale. Whether by bomb or bad water, the city's skeletons remain silent witnesses to a truth we're still piecing together, one scorched brick at a time. Among the glittering treasures of feudal Japan, few objects commanded as much reverence as the Honjo Masamune, a sword so exquisitely crafted it was said to slice through the very breeze without resistance. Forged in the 13th century by the legendary swordsmith Goro Nyudo Masamune, this katana wasn't just a weapon. It was a symbol of shogunate power, passed down through generations of rulers like a sacred relic. Its curved blade, adorned with a signature grain pattern resembling wood grain on water, was considered the pinnacle of Japanese metallurgy. Then, in 1945, as World War II ground to its bitter end, the Honjo Masamune vanished without a trace, and the mystery of its disappearance still haunts historians and sword enthusiasts today. The sword's last documented appearance was in December 1945, when Japan's post-war government ordered families to surrender all edged weapons to occupying U.S. forces. The Honjo Masamune, then in the possession of the Tokugawa family, descendants of the shoguns who once ruled Japan, was handed over to authorities at a Tokyo police station. And that's where the paper trail ends. No official receipt exists confirming its transfer to American hands. No U.S. military inventory lists its confiscation. It simply disappeared. One theory suggests the sword was scooped up by an unknowing soldier as war loot, packed into a shipment of miscellaneous arms and eventually melted down or sold on the black market. Post-war Japan was chaos incarnate, with countless artifacts lost in the shuffle between surrender and reconstruction. But skeptics counter that a blade of such fame would have been instantly recognizable to any appraiser, its distinctive Hammond temper line and gold-inlaid signature impossible to miss. Then there's the more tantalizing possibility that the Tokugawa family, unwilling to part with their ancestral treasure, secretly substituted a replica before the surrender. Some historians point to subtle inconsistencies in the police station's records: a missing serial number, a vague description hinting at a carefully orchestrated ruse. Could the real Honjo Masamune still be hidden away in some secure vault, waiting for the day it can re-emerge? Over the decades, anonymous collectors have whispered about private viewings, but no concrete evidence has surfaced. The wildest twist came in 1958, when a strikingly similar blade turned up in Chicago, owned by a World War II veteran who claimed he'd found it in a crate. Experts who examined the sword were stunned by its craftsmanship but divided on its authenticity. Before further tests could be done, the owner withdrew it from public scrutiny, fueling rumors that the US government, eager to avoid a diplomatic incident, had quietly pressured him into silence. What makes this mystery so compelling isn't just the fate of a single sword, it's what the Honjo Masamune represents. For centuries, it embodied the soul of the samurai, a tangible link to Japan's warrior past. Its loss symbolizes the rupture of tradition during occupation, a cultural wound that still hasn't fully healed. Whether it rests in a Texas attic or a secret Tokugawa shrine, one thing is certain: until the blade resurfaces, its legend will only grow sharper with time. High in the frozen reaches of the Himalayas, where the air thins and the snow never seems to melt, there's a legend that has persisted for centuries, one of towering, ape-like creatures lurking just beyond human sight. The Yeti, or abominable snowman, as Western explorers later dubbed it, has been woven into the fabric of Himalayan culture through folklore, religious texts, and whispered campfire stories. But what if this mythical beast wasn't just a figment of imagination? What if there's a kernel of truth buried beneath layers of myth and misinterpretation? The evidence at first glance seems compelling. For decades, mountaineers and locals have reported finding massive footprints in the snow, prints measuring up to 13 inches long, with a stride that suggests a creature standing nearly 8 feet tall. Some of the most famous tracks were photographed by British explorer Eric Shipton in 1951 during his Everest reconnaissance, showing a distinct, almost human-like imprint with a visible opposable toe. Then there are the countless eyewitness accounts, from Sherpa guides describing hair-covered figures watching them from the tree line to monks in remote Tibetan monasteries claiming to preserve relics of the creature. Scraps of fur, nails, even skeletal fragments said to belong to the Yeti. Science has taken its turn attempting to unravel the mystery. In 2017, DNA analysis of purported Yeti artifacts, including bones and hair samples from museums and private collections, revealed something unexpected. Most were genetic matches to known Himalayan animals like bears, specifically the rare and elusive Tibetan blue bear or the Asiatic black bear. But here's where it gets interesting. A few samples defied easy classification, showing partial matches to ancient polar bear DNA. Could the Yeti actually be an undiscovered bear subspecies, one adapted to the high-altitude cold? Or is the truth even stranger, a surviving remnant of a Pleistocene-era creature like Gigantopithecus, a massive ape once thought extinct for hundreds of thousands of years? The cultural weight of the Yeti can't be ignored. In Nepal and Tibet, the creature isn't just a cryptid, it's a spiritual entity. Many Himalayan Buddhists view the Yeti as a guardian of sacred spaces, a being that exists between worlds. Ancient manuscripts like the Tibetan Buddhist text The Mirror of the Mind describe my go, or wild men, as reclusive forest dwellers with supernatural abilities. Some monasteries are said to keep Yeti scalps as holy relics, though carbon dating has revealed these to be crafted from the skins of serows, a goat-like antelope. Yet for all the scientific debunking, the legend persists, and maybe that's the point. The Yeti is more than just a missing link in the animal kingdom. It represents the unknown, the untamed corners of our world that refuse to be mapped or explained. In an age where satellites can zoom in on every inch of the planet, the idea that something could still be out there, unseen and unclassified, holds a primal fascination. Whether the Yeti is a misidentified bear, a cultural metaphor, or something far older lurking in the snow, one thing is certain: the mountains keep their secrets well. And until someone or something steps out of the mist, the mystery will continue to stalk both science and imagination. In the dimly lit halls of Crete's Heraclean Archaeological Museum, one artifact stands out not for its grandeur, but for the eerie silence of its secrets: the Phaistos disc. Unearthed in 1908 from the ruins of the Minoan Palace of Phaistos, this baked clay disc, roughly the size of a small plate, is etched with spiraling symbols so bizarre they've defied translation for over a century. 45 distinct pictographs, from helmeted heads to crawling insects, from ships to shields, are stamped in precise rows, twisting inward like a coiled serpent. But here's the catch: no other example of this script has ever been found. It's as if the disc appeared out of nowhere, a linguistic orphan with no siblings, no cousins, no family tree to trace. What makes the Phaistos disc so baffling isn't just its isolation, it's the method of its creation. Unlike inscriptions carved by hand, the symbols were pressed into the clay with individual stamps, making this the earliest known example of movable type in human history, predating Gutenberg's printing press by over 3,000 years. Why would the Minoans, who wrote in Linear A and later Linear B, go to the trouble of crafting dozens of unique stamps for a script used only once? Was it a royal decree, a religious hymn, or something far more mundane, like an ancient shopping list? Theories about its meaning range from the scholarly to the fantastical. Some linguists argue the symbols represent an early form of Luwian, an extinct Anatolian language spoken in what's now Turkey. They point to similarities between the disc's foot symbol and Luwian hieroglyphs for walking, suggesting it might record a treaty or tribute from Anatolia. Others propose it's a musical score, with the spirals indicating melodic notation for rituals. Then there's the fringe view that the disc is a fake, planted by its discoverer, Italian archaeologist Luigi Pernia. But modern thermoluminescence dating confirms the clay was fired around 1800 BC, silencing most skeptics. Perhaps the most tantalizing clue lies in the disc's singular nature. If it's a foreign document, why hasn't a single matching fragment turned up in Anatolia? If it's Minoan, why doesn't its script resemble Linear A's abstract syllables? The absence of a Rosetta Stone-like bilingual key has forced researchers to resort to brute force computational analysis, feeding the symbols into algorithms designed to crack dead languages. So far, every attempt has hit a wall. The disc's symbols don't align neatly with any known writing system. One unconventional theory suggests the disc isn't writing at all, but a board game's rulebook with the pictographs representing moves or penalties. Archaeologists have found similarly spiral-carved game boards in the region, fueling speculation. Yet even this explanation feels unsatisfying. Why would a game need 45 unique symbols? The disc's symmetry and repetition hint at structure, but without context, it's like trying to reconstruct chess from a snapshot of half the pieces. What makes this artifact so haunting is the possibility that its code might never be cracked. The Minoans left no dictionaries, no scribes' manuals to guide us. Every generation of scholars brings new tools: AI, spectral imaging, database cross-referencing. But the disc guards its silence like the labyrinth of Knossos guarded the Minotaur. And maybe that's the lesson here. Not every mystery yields to persistence. Some exist to remind us how much we've lost, how fragile the threads of history truly are. Until another clue emerges, a second disc, a matching inscription, the Phaistos disc will remain a locked door, its key buried somewhere in the ashes of time. In the serene halls of Heinsa Temple, nestled in the misty mountains of South Korea, rests one of the most sacred treasures of the Buddhist world, the Tripitaka Korina. Carved onto over 80,000 wooden blocks in the 13th century, this monumental collection of scriptures represents the most complete and pristine version of Buddhist teachings in existence. Each block, inscribed with flawless calligraphy, was believed to be protected by divine intervention, miraculously surviving centuries of war, fire, and decay. Yet despite its near-mythic resilience, there's a curious gap in this spiritual masterpiece, the missing 9th volume, a vanishing act that has puzzled scholars and monks for generations. The mystery begins with the numbers themselves. The Tripitaka Korina consists of 1,496 titles across 6,791 volumes, meticulously organized into categories of sutras, vinayas, and commentaries. But if you count them all, one volume is conspicuously absent, the 9th volume of the Avatamsaka Sutra, a foundational text in Mahayana Buddhism. Historical records from the Joseon dynasty mention its existence, yet today, the wooden block for this volume is nowhere to be found. So what happened? One theory suggests the block was destroyed during the Mongol invasions of Korea in the 13th century. The original set of Tripitaka blocks, carved earlier, was burned to ash by Mongol forces as a psychological blow against Korean resistance. The surviving set we know today was recreated in the 1200s as an act of national defiance. But could the 9th volume have been lost in the chaos, its block never recarved? Temple archivists point to singe marks on adjacent blocks, hinting at a close call with fire that might have claimed this single volume. Then there's the theft hypothesis. During the Japanese invasions of the 1590s, known as the Imjin War, countless Korean artifacts were looted and taken to Japan. Some scholars speculate that a lone volume, perhaps smuggled out by a soldier or collector, wound up in a private collection or temple overseas. Intriguingly, a 1934 inventory of a Kyoto monastery's holdings briefly mentions an unidentified Korean sutra volume. But the trail goes cold. No one knows if it matched the missing text or where it might be today. But the most tantalizing possibility is that the 9th volume was never completed at all. Court records from the Goryeo dynasty hint at a last-minute doctrinal dispute, a debate among monks over a single line of text deemed too controversial to preserve. Could religious politics have led to the deliberate exclusion of this volume? Without the original carving logs or royal decrees, we're left with only whispers. The absence haunts researchers because this isn't just any missing book. The Avatamsaka Sutra explores the interconnectedness of all things, a cosmic web where every action ripples across existence. To lose even a single volume is like tearing a page from the universe's blueprint. Modern monks at Heinsa still pause when they reach the gap in the shelves, a silent reminder that even the most sacred things can slip through time's fingers. And so the search continues in dusty archives, in whispered legends, in the hope that one day, the 9th block might yet return to its place, completing the puzzle as it was meant to be. Stretching thousands of miles across China's rugged northern frontiers, the Great Wall stands as one of humanity's most awe-inspiring feats of engineering. But for all its fame, few realize that this colossal structure might still be hiding secrets within its ancient stones. Recent discoveries suggest that beneath its weathered battlements and watchtowers, there could be entire networks of sealed chambers and tunnels, spaces deliberately concealed or forgotten over centuries. Are these hidden voids merely structural quirks, or do they guard untold treasures, lost records, or even the remains of those who built them? Ground-penetrating radar surveys conducted near the wall's Muxianyu and Jianku sections have revealed puzzling anomalies, hollow spaces inconsistent with normal construction patterns. Some appear to be narrow escape tunnels, possibly used by defenders to retreat or ambush invaders during sieges. Others resemble storage rooms, their dimensions matching historical accounts of granaries and armories stocked to withstand long sieges. But the most tantalizing voids defy easy explanation. In 2019, researchers scanning a collapsed segment near Gansu province detected a rectangular chamber about 20 feet beneath the surface, its walls too smooth to be natural erosion. Local folklore speaks of soldier vaults, secret burial sites for laborers or warriors who perished during construction, their resting places sealed to honor their sacrifice. Could this be one of them? Then there's the enigma of the wall's missing blueprints. Ancient texts reference meticulous records kept by Ming Dynasty engineers, detailing not just construction techniques, but also hidden passages intended for messengers or emergency evacuations. These documents, known as the Longtu, were said to be stored in a dedicated archive beneath the wall itself, a library of stone and parchment meant to endure as long as the structure it described. Yet no such archive has ever been found. Could it still exist, tucked away in one of these uncharted chambers? Theories about what else might lie hidden range from the practical to the fantastical. Some historians speculate that certain tunnels were used to smuggle goods past imperial tax collectors, their entrances bricked up when raids loomed. Others point to rumors of Taoist monks sealing sacred texts or alchemical formulas within the wall's core, believing its timeless bulk would protect dangerous knowledge from misuse. And of course, there's the inevitable treasure lore stories of warlords stashing looted gold in remote sections, only to be slain before revealing the locations. Modern archaeology faces unique challenges in solving these riddles. Unlike standalone ruins, the Great Wall isn't a single site but a sprawling patchwork of dynastic additions and repairs. Excavating one segment risks destabilizing another, and with UNESCO status protecting much of its length, invasive digging is heavily restricted. Technology offers a compromise. Drones equipped with thermal cameras scan for temperature differentials that might hint at hidden cavities, while AI-assisted 3D modeling reconstructs likely tunnel paths based on stress fractures in the masonry. Perhaps the greatest obstacle isn't physical but philosophical. To the Chinese, the wall isn't just stone, it's a living monument to perseverance, woven into national identity. Disturbing its hidden spaces risks unraveling not just dirt and rubble but the very stories that give it meaning. So for now, the chambers remain sealed, their secrets echoing softly beneath the footsteps of millions who walk the wall's sunlit paths, unaware of the mysteries lurking just beneath their feet. And maybe that's how it should be, because some wonders are meant to endure not just in brick and mortar, but in the quiet thrill of the unknown. Long before tattoos became fashion statements, the skin was seen as sacred canvas across Southeast Asia, a living tapestry of spirits, protection, and power. In the jungles of Thailand and Cambodia, masters of Sakyant and Yantra tattooing wielded bamboo needles like bridges between worlds, etching intricate geometric patterns and animal motifs into the flesh of warriors, monks, and kings. These weren't mere decorations, they were living talismans believed to channel divine energy, deflect arrows, or even make the wearer invisible in battle. Yet today, these ancient traditions teeter on the edge of extinction, their decline a quiet casualty of colonial erasure and the relentless march of modernity. The magic of these tattoos lay in their ritual. A Sakyant ceremony in Thailand wasn't just about ink, it was a spiritual pact. Monks or ajahns, tattoo masters, would chant sacred Pali scriptures over the designs, their breath mingling with the sting of the needle. Each line, each curve held meaning: tigers for ferocity, Hanuman the monkey god for agility, or unbroken loops of Gao-yord spires to trap misfortune. In Cambodia, similar yantra tattoos featured intricate mandalas and Khmer script, often applied during grueling endurance tests where candidates knelt on hot coals to prove their worthiness. Historical accounts from French colonial officers describe Siamese soldiers covered in these symbols, charging into battle without armor, convinced their tattoos rendered them invincible. One 19th-century journal even records a Cambodian rebel leader who, after being shot point-blank, allegedly stood up unharmed. His chest tattoo, witnesses claimed, had swallowed the bullet. Colonialism didn't just dismiss these practices, it actively sought to erase them. When the French took control of Cambodia and much of Thailand in the late 1800s, they branded sak yant and yantra as barbaric superstitions. Tattooed monks were forcibly defrocked, their tools confiscated. In some regions, wearers were made to cover their markings or face punishment, stripping the art of its social legitimacy. The British in Burma did much the same, linking tattoos to criminality, a stigma that lingers in some areas today. But the deepest blow came later with 20th-century modernization. As urbanization spread, younger generations traded spiritual symbols for Western-style tattoos, viewing the old ways as backward. The rise of sterile, machine-based tattoo parlors further marginalized hand-tapped methods, pushing masters into obscurity. Yet fragments of the tradition persist, clinging to life in unexpected ways. In Thailand, the famed sak yant master Ajahn Nukanpai has become a reluctant celebrity, inking Hollywood stars like Angelina Jolie and sparking global curiosity. But even he warns that true sak yant is fading. Commercialization dilutes its power. Tourists queue for tattoos without understanding the accompanying moral precepts, like abstaining from eating squash or disrespecting parents, reducing sacred vows to Instagram aesthetics. Meanwhile, in Cambodia, surviving yantra masters guard their knowledge fiercely, refusing to teach outsiders after the Khmer Rouge targeted tattooed individuals as enemies of the state. Their designs, once passed down through generations, now exist mostly in memory. What's lost isn't just an art form, it's a worldview. These tattoos were living libraries of philosophy, medicine, and cosmology, encoding everything from herbal remedies to meditation techniques in their swirls. Modern science even hints at their psychological potency. Studies on ritual tattoos show they can enhance pain tolerance and focus, likely through the placebo effect of deep belief. The few remaining masters speak of a deeper tragedy, the severing of a thread that connected humanity to the unseen. Without the chants, the ceremonies, the lineage of masters, the tattoos become hollow. But in shadowed temples and remote villages, whispers of revival persist. Young Cambodian artists are painstakingly reconstructing yantra designs from museum fragments and elders' fading recollections. In Thailand, activist monks campaign to have sak yant recognized as UNESCO cultural heritage. Perhaps the tattoo's greatest magic was always their resilience. Like the mythical Hanuman they depict, these traditions may yet find a way to leap across the chasm of time, carrying their secrets into the future. For now, they remain etched not just on skin, but in the stubborn heart of memory, waiting for the next generation to listen. The dense jungles of Sri Lanka hold more than just the echoes of ancient kingdoms. They guard what might be one of history's greatest lost treasures. When Portuguese invaders stormed the island in the early 16th century, the Sinhalese kings of Kandy faced an impossible choice: surrender their sacred relics and accumulated wealth, or find a way to hide them from the relentless European advance. According to royal chronicles and whispered village legends, they chose the latter, secreting away vast hoards of gold, gem-encrusted crowns, and priceless Buddhist artifacts in underground chambers, remote caves, and even beneath the waters of sacred lakes. What followed was a centuries-long vanishing act, a treasure hunt that continues to this day, one tangled in politics, colonial greed, and the unyielding grip of the jungle itself. The scale of these hidden riches staggers the imagination. Portuguese records from 1590 describe looting a single Sinhalese palace and carrying away 250 elephants worth of gold, a phrase that likely meant literal tons of bullion. But what they couldn't find was the real prize. The Mahavamsa texts mention the sacred tooth relic of the Buddha, encased in a golden casket studded with rubies the size of fists, along with 7 gem-studded thrones representing the planetary deities. These weren't just symbols of wealth, they were divine talismans believed to protect the island's sovereignty. Fearing their capture, King Vimaladharmasuriya I allegedly ordered them hidden in a network of tunnels beneath the ancient capital of Anuradhapura, with only a handful of trusted monks knowing the locations. By the time the British took control in the 1800s, the treasure's whereabouts had faded into myth, leaving only cryptic clues in palm leaf manuscripts and the occasional deathbed confession of a royal descendant. Modern treasure hunters armed with metal detectors and satellite imagery haven't fared much better. In 1986, a farmer plowing his field near Sigiriya struck a metal object, the tip of a golden scepter bearing the crest of the Kandyan kings. The discovery sparked a frenzy, with amateur excavators flooding the area until the Sri Lankan government declared the site off-limits, citing cultural preservation laws. Similar restrictions now protect over 50 suspected treasure zones, from the misty peak of Adams Peak to the labyrinthine caves at Shambhala. Officials argue that half-earth digs risk destroying fragile artifacts or, worse yet, allowing looters to sell sacred objects on the black market. And they have a point. In 2014, Interpol recovered a 17th-century golden Makara statue, a mythical aquatic creature, from a private collector in Dubai, its provenance traced back to an illegal dig near Kandy. Yet the most intriguing twist isn't the treasure itself. It's the supernatural lore surrounding it. Villagers near the abandoned city of Anuradhapura speak of yaksha, guardian spirits who punish those who disturb the caches with curses of madness or sudden illness. In 2011, a team of archaeologists using ground-penetrating radar near Ritagala Mountain abandoned their project after equipment failures and a series of vivid, shared nightmares about serpentine figures. Rationalists dismiss these accounts as superstition, but even government surveys acknowledge unexplained interference in certain zones where electronic devices malfunction and compasses spin wildly. Perhaps the real mystery isn't whether the treasure exists, but whether it should be found. For many Sri Lankans, these artifacts aren't just lost property. They are fragments of a fractured identity, remnants of a sovereignty stolen first by colonizers and then by time. Some Buddhist monks argue that the relics were hidden for a reason, that their rediscovery should coincide with a spiritual awakening, not a tourist boom. Others counter that bringing them to light could rewrite Sri Lanka's colonial narrative, proving the resilience of its pre-European past. For now, the jungle keeps its secrets. The golden caskets and jeweled thrones, if they still endure, wait in darkness not just beneath soil and stone, but beneath layers of legend, fear, and longing. And so the hunt continues, not with shovels and maps, but in the quiet deciphering of ancient texts, in the patient listening to elders' stories, and in the hope that one day the right key will turn in a lock unseen for centuries. Beneath the scorching sands of Mongolia's Gobi Desert, locals whisper warnings of a creature so deadly it strikes without warning, a lurid, blood-red worm thick as a man's arm that spits venom and emits electric shocks strong enough to kill a camel. Known to nomadic herders as the Olgoi Korkoi, or intestine worm, for its resemblance to a cow's gut, this cryptid has stalked the edges of reality for centuries, blurring the line between folklore and biological mystery. What makes this legend so persistent isn't just its grotesque details. It's the eerie consistency of accounts across generations, from Soviet-era expeditions to modern-day desert guides who refuse to camp near certain dunes. Eyewitness descriptions paint a creature straight out of a nightmare. The death worm is said to burrow through sand with terrifying speed, surfacing only to unleash its lethal arsenal. Herders claim it can spit a corrosive yellow venom that melts metal, while others insist its mere touch delivers a jolt like a downed power line. Some accounts even describe it emitting eerie bioluminescence at night, pulsing like a warning beacon under the stars. The most chilling reports come from the Gobai's Covergs, or singing sands, where travelers have vanished without a trace, their bodies later found with strange burns and swollen limbs as if struck by an unseen force. Scientists, unsurprisingly, remain skeptical. No physical evidence, no carcasses, no venom samples, no conclusive photos has ever been verified. Biologists point out that the Gobai's extreme climate makes sustained survival unlikely for a large, soft-bodied organism. The venom and electricity claims defy known biological mechanisms, with no known desert animal capable of such traits. Yet skeptics falter when confronted with the sheer volume of first-hand reports, many from seasoned herders with no motive to fabricate tales. Could there be a real, if less fantastical, creature at the heart of the myth? One plausible theory suggests the death worm is a misidentified species of amphisbaenian, a legless lizard adapted to desert burrowing. The Tota sand boa, native to the region, matches the worm's ruddy color and subterranean habits but lacks any lethal abilities. Others propose a giant worm, lizard, or even an undiscovered species of electric eel like invertebrate, though no such creature exists in current taxonomy. The venom might be exaggerated accounts of spitting cobra encounters, while electric shocks could stem from static discharges in the Gobai's dry air, misinterpreted through the lens of superstition. The legend took a dramatic turn in the 1920s when explorer Roy Chapman Andrews, the real-life inspiration for Indiana Jones, claimed to have hunted the worm at the behest of Mongolia's prime minister. His team found nothing, but his journals note locals' genuine terror, describing families fleeing entire valleys when worm sightings occurred. Decades later, Soviet scientists mounted their own searches during Cold War-era expeditions, equally empty-handed but intrigued by radioactive soil readings in certain areas, leading to fringe theories of mutated organisms swiftly debunked. What fuels the mystery today isn't just the lack of evidence, but the cultural weight behind it. For Mongolian herders, the death worm isn't a campfire story. It's a spiritual entity, a guardian of forbidden zones. Certain deserts are considered quoit, or taboo, with strict rules against disturbing the earth. Modern cryptozoologists armed with drones and thermal cameras have been politely but firmly turned away by elders who view their technology as disrespectful to the land's unseen protectors. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between biology and belief. The Gobai is a place of extremes where mirages warp perception and isolation breeds legend. The death worm may be a cautionary tale, a way to keep children from straying into lethal dunes, or a metaphor for the desert's hidden dangers from quicksand to vipers. Or maybe, just maybe, something truly uncanny slithers beneath those sands, defying classification. Until a specimen or another unlucky traveler surfaces, the Olgoi cork hoi will remain where it thrives best, in the shadowy intersection of fear and wonder, where science ends and the desert's whispers begin. Scattered across the misty highlands of northern Laos, thousands of colossal stone jars stand in silent clusters, some towering as tall as a person, others squat and wide-mouthed, all carved from solid rock with astonishing precision. The Plain of Jars, as this enigmatic site is known, stretches across hundreds of square kilometers, dotted with these mysterious vessels, some solitary, others arranged in groups of hundreds. Dating back over 2,000 years to the Iron Age, these jars have baffled archaeologists for decades. Who carved them? How were they transported across mountainous terrain without modern tools? And most perplexing of all, what were they really for? The most widely accepted theory ties the jars to ancient burial practices. Excavations around the jars have uncovered human remains, burial goods, and ceramic fragments, suggesting they might have served as funerary urns or part of elaborate death rituals. Some researchers propose the jars were used for secondary burials, where bodies were left to decompose elsewhere before bones were placed inside the vessels, a practice seen in other Southeast Asian cultures. But inconsistencies linger. Not all jar sites contain human remains, and the sheer variety in jar sizes, some barely large enough to hold a skull, others big enough to fit a fully crouched adult, hints at multiple functions. Could they have been storage for food or water during ceremonies, or even fermentation vessels for rice wine used in mortuary feasts? Then there's the trade network theory. The plain of jars lies along ancient routes linking the Mekong River Valley to coastal trade hubs. Chemical analysis of the stone reveals many jars were quarried from distant locations, some over 50 kilometers away, implying sophisticated logistics. Were they waypoints for merchants, filled with goods or offerings to ensure safe passage? Local legends speak of a giant king named Kun Cheung who used the jars to brew rice beer to celebrate military victories, a tantalizing nod to communal gatherings. Yet if they were trade markers, why are so many clustered in remote, inaccessible areas far from established routes? A fringe but fascinating idea connects the jars to astronomy. Certain jar sites align with solstice sunrises or prominent mountain peaks, leading some to speculate they functioned as celestial calendars or ritual spaces tied to agricultural cycles. One particular site, Jar Site 1, features a cave with a natural limestone pillar that casts precise shadows inside the cavern during equinoxes, suggesting intentional placement. Could the jars have been part of an observatory network, guiding planting seasons or religious festivals? Skeptics counter that correlation isn't causation. The alignments could be coincidental in such a vast landscape. Complicating the mystery is the shadow of modern conflict. During the Vietnam War, American bombers carpeted the region with cluster munitions, leaving millions of unexploded ordnance buried among the jars. Unexploded bombs still litter nearly a third of known sites, rendering them inaccessible to researchers. It's a grim irony. The same conflict that brought global attention to the Plain of Jars also made it one of the most dangerous archaeological zones on Earth. Only recently, with painstaking clearance efforts, have experts begun rediscovering lost jar clusters, each new find adding pieces to the puzzle. What makes these jars so haunting isn't just their unanswered questions, it's their resilience. Wars, monsoons, and centuries of neglect haven't toppled them. They stand as mute witnesses to a forgotten culture's ingenuity, their purpose slipping just beyond our grasp. Maybe they were never meant for just one role. Perhaps they were tombs, storerooms, and sacred altars all at once, evolving with the people who used them. Until more sites can be safely excavated, or until a Rosetta Stone-like inscription surfaces, the Plain of Jars will keep its secrets, reminding us that some ancient whispers are meant to echo longer than answers. High in the snow-capped peaks of the Himalayas, where the air is thin and the boundaries between worlds seem to blur, Tibetan monks have whispered of Shambhala for centuries, a hidden kingdom of enlightened beings untouched by time or turmoil. Ancient Buddhist texts describe it as a pure land, a circular realm hidden behind ice and mist, where wisdom flourishes and suffering cannot enter. Its capital, Kalapa, is said to glimmer with golden temples and libraries holding the sum of cosmic knowledge, ruled by a line of kings who wait for the world's darkest hour to emerge and restore balance. But here's the twist. Is Shambhala a physical place waiting to be discovered, or a spiritual metaphor, a guidepost on the path to enlightenment? The answer depends on who you ask and where you look. To devout Buddhists, Shambhala is as real as the mountains themselves, but not in the way outsiders might expect. The Kalachakra Tantra, a sacred text dating back over 1,000 years, describes it not as a fixed location but as a state accessible only to those who purify their minds. The journey to Shambhala is an inner one, its gates unlocked through meditation and moral discipline. The Dalai Lama himself has called it a pure land that only those with the right karma can perceive, a realm existing parallel to our own, visible only to the awakened. Monks in Tibetan monasteries still paint intricate mandalas mapping its celestial geography, not as treasure maps but as meditative aids to visualize higher consciousness. Yet that hasn't stopped explorers from scouring the earth for its physical counterpart. In the 19th century, Russian mystic Nicholas Roerich led expeditions through the Altai Mountains and the Gobi Desert, convinced Shambhala lay in the white spaces of Central Asian maps. He returned with tales of hidden valleys and blue-skinned sages, though no concrete proof. The Nazis, bizarrely, sent teams to Tibet in the 1930s, blending occult obsession with pseudoscience, hoping to find Shambhala's Aryan masters. Even modern scholars can't resist the puzzle. Some point to the Swat Valley in Pakistan, where carved stupas and cave complexes match descriptions of Shambhala's architecture. Others argue it's the ancient Uzbek city of Bukhara, a Silk Road hub where Buddhist and Zoroastrian traditions once intertwined. The most compelling theory bridges myth and geography. Historians note that Shambhala first appeared in texts during Islam's expansion into Buddhist Central Asia, a possible allegory for lost cultural sanctuaries. The kingdom's prophesied battle against barbarian forces might symbolize the clash between Buddhism and invading armies. Intriguingly, ruins in Tajikistan's Pamir Mountains, a region once dotted with Buddhist monasteries, show defensive walls arranged in concentric circles, mirroring Shambhala's described layout. Could these be the bones of a real place that inspired the legend? Perhaps the greatest clue lies in the prophecy itself. Shambhala is said to reveal itself only when humanity is ready, when greed and violence tip the scales toward chaos. In that light, the search isn't just about geography, it's a mirror. Do we seek Shambhala as a refuge from our world's flaws or as a challenge to build something better? The monks might say both quests lead to the same truth, that the real Shambhala was never lost. It's been here all along, waiting not in some distant valley, but in the quiet spaces between our actions, in the choice to turn toward light when shadows lengthen. And so the kingdom endures, as elusive and everlasting as the snows that guard its legend. From the whispering jungles of Cambodia, hiding lost pyramids, to the icy peaks where the Yeti eludes capture, Asia's unsolved mysteries stretch across time like a vast, unbroken thread. These 25 enigmas aren't just gaps in history, they're invitations to wonder. Think of the Indus Valley's sudden silence, the mercury-filled tomb of China's first emperor, or the cursed rubies of Burma, each one a puzzle that refuses to be solved. They remind us that history isn't just about the answers we've found, but the questions that still keep us up at night. What makes these mysteries so compelling is how they mirror Asia's complexities. Its empires rising and falling, its spiritual traditions colliding with modernity, its landscapes hiding secrets under every stone. The vanished library of the Moguls speaks to the fragility of knowledge, while the plain of jars echoes with the voices of a culture we barely understand. Even the fantastical, like Shangri-La or the Mongolian Death Worm, reveal how deeply myth and reality intertwine in this continent's storytelling. Now it's your turn. Which of these mysteries stuck with you? Do you think the Honjo Masamune is rusting in some forgotten attic or waiting to be returned? Could the Phaistos disc be a forgotten language or something even stranger? Drop your theories in the comments. Let's unravel these riddles together, and stay tuned because this is just the beginning. From sunken cities to cryptic manuscripts, the world is full of stories waiting for their next clue. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, the best mysteries aren't just about what we've lost, but what we've yet to find.